Well, welcome to Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Thank you so kindly for being part of the show. Well, you know, folks, it seems like I don't know, but just maybe the president is coming to terms with the fact that he's a criminal. Of course, this first thing was a civil case, but an important civil case because it comes out that the preponderance of the evidence is that our former president, the first time in American history, the former president of the United States is also a sexual abuser. I repeat, the president of the United States is also a sexual abuser. So what does that mean? That means that anybody who's supporting this guy right now, I mean, this isn't new, right? We've had all these accusations of the president being an abuser for a long time. Now, after bringing all the evidence into one room, the people, including a person devoted to listening to right-wing radio, a right-wing blogcast by Chris, I don't remember the name of the blogcaster, even a long-time listener to that who likely couldn't see, because, you know, he's been convinced that Donald Trump can do no wrong. Even this guy saw that Donald Trump committed a crime. Of course, this is in a civil court. All right, welcome aboard. Michael Rutnan is in the house. Chris Micah is in the house. How you doing, Chris? I hope to see you at Netroots Nation 2023 in Chicago. I hope to see you there. Bruce Pollard is in the house. How are you doing, Senor Pollard? As well in the house, E2247. Bridge MCP is in the house. Eric Hayes is in the house, as well as Wide Awake, our woke attendee, AVQ. How are you guys all doing? Bridge MCP says she grabbed him by the wallet. A federal jury found former President Donald Trump liable Tuesday in a civil case for sexual abuse and battery of E. Jean Carroll in 1996 and said he should pay her $5 million in damages, including for battery with defamation, a verdict that could further complicate the former president's election bid in 2024. The jury, which deliberated fewer than 3 hours, which means even the right-wing guy on that jury, even that guy was convinced that the president was a sexual abuser. And the only reason they didn't frame him with rape, believe it or not, it seems to have been the honesty of the woman who claimed he raped her. And this is what she said. And she said, I don't know if he was using his, and I won't be graphic, his genitalia or his finger. And believe it or not, that made the difference in a lot of pundits' belief. So as it turns out, our president, who we know is a criminal, the former president, that is, our former president, the only president to have been impeached twice, the only president to have led an insurrection, an attempted coup on the United States, the only president that has been convicted of sexual abuse, that being said, in a civil case, should have been in a criminal case, but, you know, nobody wants to mess with the powerful. And so many other financial piccadillies that we will be looking into. And why am I bringing this up? Not because I want to talk about Donald Trump. I'm tired of Donald Trump. I don't want to talk about Donald Trump. But when you have a poll that comes out that says, you don't have to like Biden, you don't have to care about Biden, you don't have to be a Democrat. But something is wrong in a country when somebody we are well aware has criminal tendency, mob tendencies. He's a criminal. He is a misogynist. He's a racist. He's a what is the word when you don't like folks from other countries? He's all these isms. He's all these isms. And there is a sect in this country still willing to vote for him. My question to you, my dear brothers and sisters, what is wrong with our psyche And it's something that we should be watching and taking care of. Michael Rudden says, yesterday was a nice day for some time in the park. Today, he'd heading out to visit family in about an hour. Might have to go a few minutes early. Well, thank you for being here. The fact that you're here makes it a better show. Bridge MCP says, hey, peeps. Michael Rudden says, only 5 million? Oh, consider it a slap on the wrist. But it's going to cost politically. Who wants to be associated with a sexual abuser? Apparently 40% of Americans do, because they still support him over Biden, if the polls are to be believed. And what's even funnier is the recent ABC poll said that, although you have to take it with a grain of salt, that 55 or 56% of Americans want Trump to be held accountable for what he did with the attempted coup, but still a preponderance of them, 47% of them, will still elect the dude. What's wrong with the psyche? Whatever happened to morals? Whatever happened to you can't elect somebody that does not treat women right, that doesn't treat people right? What does it mean? I don't know. Can you tell me? Eric Hayes says, hi all, be aware National Fentanyl Awareness Day. May 9th raising awareness about an urgent national problem. People are dying at alarming rates due to illicit fentanyl, a dangerous synthetic opioid. Get the facts about and share them widely. Spread the word with us for our second annual Action 9. They take action with our partners. I want the fentanyl problem solved. I think we need to make it a medical problem, as it should be considered a medical problem. People in pain. Of course, it's a political problem in that the politics that allow people to be in despair as they are now. I can understand it. I can understand it. Bruce Pollard said, what's more important, chaplains in school or Medicaid expansion? That goes without saying, Medicaid expansion. The only chaplain I support is Charlie. Ha! That's funny. Thank you for lighting things up. Chris Micah says, maybe the beginning and accountability and justice. Yes, sir. Michael Ronseguberto, first time a president is a sexual abuser? You forget about Bill Clinton. Monica frowns. No, there's a difference there. Bill Clinton abused Monica in a, what is the word that I want to use with her? Okay. He never forced himself physically on her, and he should have known better. He was wrong. But he was wrong. But remember, she went, I want everybody to remember this, because again, he was wrong. I'm not trying to absolve Clinton of anything at all. But remember, before she went into the office, her famous words were, I am going in to earn my knee pads. That's all I'm going to say. That's how she went into the White House. An adult should know that a 20 or 23-year-old making a pass at you, you let it slide, especially if she's subordinate to you. It's that simple. It's that simple. He was wrong. But again, remember, the dynamics are very, very, very different. All right, let's see. Para ver. Bree says in his own deposition, he says it's true to grab him. But we always knew Donald Trump wasn't a very smart figure. He never really ran the White House. I mean, he was just the evil being that evil people could work through. Melanie Keelan is here. Hola, Melanie de Barcelona, Spain. ¿Cómo estás, corazón mía? Chris Micah says, fantastic. I really miss you. Great. I'll see you there. So remember, I'm on Radio Row. You'll start seeing some ads from not Daily Coast, but from Netroots on our website as we try to get more people to come. We normally have between 3,000 to 5,000 people for the largest blogger, progressive blogger, progressive writers, progressive everything, newscasters, progressive politicians. They're all there. We'll have the gaggle, all those great things. So Chicago is going to be great this year. So, you know, folks, don't forget to fund Politics Done Right so that I can really go out there with the right sort of stuff, equipment, etc., etc., etc. And I will be transmitting live to you. And Chris Micah can tell you, because Chris Micah came and did a hell of an interview while we were in, what city were we? I think it was Pittsburgh. That's where we were, Micah. Micah is a head honcho out there in Washington, D.C., working with senators and making sure senators have the right type of narrative, as I recall. Bridge MCP says, Michael, that was different, but still agree. I agree. Janetta J. Dion Lewis, I have hope again. Janetta, if you listen to this program, I hope you come back and listen all of the times. I hope you bookmark us. I hope you go ahead and make sure that you get notified anytime we start, because there's no negativity here as far as what we believe where we can be going. We are going to make the change in this country, Janetta. I promise you that. It's going to take years, but we have started making the change. My beautiful lady. Lee Grant is in the house. He says, hi, y'all. Please remember your boy Biden is a digital rapist. I never heard that one before. You're going to have to explain that to me, sir. Benij MCP, Egberto's lawyer didn't even show. I know. Eric Hayes says, with the rush, the drugs will be flowing too. I know. Look, I am with you, Eric. We want to do something about fentanyl, but to do something about fentanyl, we have to do it right. Bruce Pollard says, Justice Thomas Friend will pay Mr. Trump's fine. I know. Do you know he's on the take? The Justice Thomas is just one of the other crooked guys on the bench. Egberto sounds overly excited. I'm always excited. You know why? Anytime I'm around you, Eric, every time I'm around my PDR posse, or I should say our PDR posse, you all make my day. How many times do I have to tell you that? I love you guys. You guys are the saviors of our democracy. Don't you know that? You know how many people read what you guys write here and see what you guys have to say, for those who decide to call in? And by the way, I'm taking calls now. 281-823-7747. 281-823-7747. If you want to get a quick call in, I'll be more than happy to take your call. All right, let's see what else we got here. Carl Cox is in the house. How you doing, my dear brother Carl? Lee Grant is wrong as always. I love Lee Grant. He is our conservative friend. He doesn't have to agree all of the times, but Lee Grant, the fact that he's here, and let me tell you better, Lee Grant is a supporter of the show. I think Lee Grant displays, we are going to fight till I take him to coffee and slap him around a bit. You know, that is virtual slapping. I love the brother. But, he's not only a supporter of the show, we disagree vehemently on issues, but he is an honest broker, in my opinion, programmed by those who follow the Powell memo. But we can discuss that some other time. Chris Micah says, the loudly self-proclaimed party of personal responsibility. They don't believe in personal responsibility except for others. That's all. Egberto loves bad orange boogeyman, but get ready for DeSantis. Oh, wow. Eric has given up on the orange man. He thinks the orange man is going to go down. And what's going to happen? He thinks DeSantis is going to be on the ascent. I want DeSantis. I think DeSantis is equivalent to George Bush's brother. I forgot his first name. Check it out. We'll see. Para ver qué más viene aquí. Xenophobe. That was the word I wanted. I can never remember xenophobe when you don't like people from other countries or worlds. Okay, let's see. Daniel Ledo says, whoa, old Donald J. Trump must have either a real small you-know-what or a huge you-know-what fingers not to know the difference. Evidently, you may have missed a class in female anatomy, and that's all I'm going to tell you, Daniel Ledo. That's all I'm going to tell you. Please don't keep saying things like that, because we are going to be very concerned about you in that field. Okay? All right, Benij MCP says, Egberto Willies, address this, please. Why can't we just speak of now and not bring up them SHIT when Rep SHIT comes out? Y'all sound like 3-year-olds, and sorry, but probably still support him, and that is terribly sad. You're smarter than that. Yes, I agree. I agree. So I think that's what we've been saying, right, my dear? Clinton cheated, Egberto. I mean, let's see what else we got. Bruce Pollard says mutual consent sort of, but wrong. It was wrong. Yeah, it was. Karen Connell, welcome to Politics Done Right. When a justice makes money by writing a book, it's really different than taking a trip or a house. That's up. You know what, Karen, thank you for putting that out, because a lot of people like to bring up the stuff about Sotomayor and her book and all, and still ruling a case with that publisher, etc. Not only that, the book is a signed deal. The success of the company means nothing to that book. If that company goes bankrupt, there's still the copyright of the book. And if you own the copyright, look, I write books. I understand the kind of things that goes on in there. So thank you for pointing that out, Karen Connell. You see behind the crapa. Bruce Pollard said, a stiff XXX has no conscience. Bruce, stop being that way. Paul Fleming Sr. says, I'm checking in from Atlanta, Georgia. How are you doing, brother? Paul Fleming Sr. Eric Hayes says, wasn't Clinton a bad person as governor doing the same bad things? You know something, brother? I don't know. One thing I know is that he was no Trump. Chris Micah says, we are in the vendor hall and I want to be interviewed. I want to be interviewed by you again. Brother, I am going to be interviewing 50, 60, 70 people out there. And you know, if you are not one of those, I'm going to come find you. But you know, it's easier for you to come find me because I'm going to be on Radio Row with all the other radio stations, on TV stations. So we are going to be doing video and everything out there. So, brother, I expect to see you, Chris. Daniel Ledo says, Bill Clinton is a predator. The power dynamics make him a, oh, really? The progressive acolytes used to understand that in reference. No, we in fact, the mere fact that we even speak about it and not just ignore it points out that we're not trying to hide anything. Donald Trump does everything on steroids. Karen Connell says, no, he didn't, and he balanced the budget. Look, you know, that sometimes goes past a lot of people. The only president in modern history to have balanced the budget was Clinton. And immediately thereafter, George W. Bush came. He gave a huge tax cut, blew up the budget. And even the second time around, Bush says, didn't we give the rich people a tax cut already? Why are we doing it again? And then he went ahead and gave it to them again. All right, let's see what else we got here. Peggy Lopez is in the house. Hi, Peggy. How are you doing? Para ver. Peggy. Mándame tu dirección postal porque tengo que mandarte algo. Let's see what else we got here. Chris Micah, you and I will part of the change in the country we want to see at Netroots. Whoop, whoop. You've got that right. Carl Cox says supporters will always back him because Trump doesn't believe in democracy either. Anything goes if you want a what? Fascist government. Dilbert Doe. I like that name. I don't know if it's going to be dangerous or not. Paint him brown and send him to Texas. Dilbert Doe. We already have our Trump in Texas. His name is Greg Abbott. And to put it bluntly, Greg Abbott is more evil than Trump because Greg Abbott physically does not take the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act. That is killing Texans. So no, there's a bit more murder directly. I'm not talking about partial murder. There's the more direct murder associated with all the Republican legislature here in the state of Texas. Let's see what else we got here. Bridge MCP says, DL, oh my God, I bet he wouldn't know the difference I leave it at that. She said it started with you know, I don't want to get too graphic to point out the ignorance of my dear brother's statement, Ledo, that is. I mean, like I said, well, let's not go there. Daniel Ledo, how many people are plugged into PDR? Facebook rarely hit more than... No, okay, should I show you the same thing again? In the last quarter, just to give you a number, 264,000 people viewed the podcast. You want some more numbers? You want the graphic example? I would normally ignore that, right? But you see, you don't understand how online publishing work, right? You think you do, but you don't, right? So, Ledo, dream on. This is a live. The live is just what people are. How many people are around at 3, right? But anyhow, don't worry about that. Just know that hundreds of thousands of people not only sees this, but sees the blogs, sees the videos. Many of them go viral. So you can dream on and try to make believe that you think you're saying something to diminish the stature, to diminish the penetration of this program. So keep trying, brother. Keep trying. You know, we laugh at those things. All right, let's continue here. Egberto, is this page 13 or show today? No, this show today. There's a show. We got I just want to read the things that I have here. Yvette Avery Herod, or beautiful lady union activist, is in the house. How are you doing, my dear lady? Let's see. Carl Cox says, I live in Riverdale. However, there is no river in the Dale. That's funny. All right. Bree says, Egberto Willis, I was speaking about addressing the right people on here. As soon as something happens to a GOP or Trump, they begin to rant of email Clinton, Biden. Yeah, you know, again, we gotta kind of, what can I say? All right, Daniel Little says, Michael Rodness and Daniel Little, connection between Noam Chomsky and Epstein. I see you've been reading the right-wing bubble again. Oh, yeah. Let's see. It was a joke, you humorless, useful friends of Stalin. Oh, sorry, Ledo. Will you forgive me? I hope you do. All right. I got to go to Andrew Schmookler. You know, today I lost power in the House, right? And in losing power, there are a few videos I needed to cut that I couldn't cut. So therefore, the program that I was to give on, I think it's tomorrow with Mr. Schmookler, I decided to do today. So here you go with Mr. Schmookler, Dr. Schmookler, and the debt ceiling. So without further ado, here you go, brothers and my beautiful sisters. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Today we are honored to have once again the continuation of our series, A Better Human Story, with Andrew Board Schmookler. Who is Andrew Board Schmookler but a PhD, a prize-winning author, former Democratic candidate for Congress in Virginia's very red Shenandoah Valley, former talk show radio host, summa cum laude graduate of Harvard University, PhD awarded with distinction in a program specifically created to accommodate his original theory explaining how civilization has developed, and a frequent columnist in newspapers around the United States of America. Welcome aboard, El Señor Schmookler. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing okay.
Great. Well, you know, today we had a subject to cover, but it in order to be timely with something that could be existential to the future of men in the United States, we decided to cover a particular article you wrote, starring in the Daily Kos, called How to Expose Republican Evil in the Debt Ceiling Extortion. And I'm so happy that you called it the debt ceiling extortion. How are you doing today, sir? Please get us started.
Well, I want to indicate that the reason I'm willing to postpone doing the other topic to do this one isn't just because this is timely, but what it also is, it's a way of showing a basic dynamic in American power politics, in American culture, which is the reason we've gotten into these very dark times. I have been saying for, 20 years almost, that conservative in America and liberal America have each contributed in their own way to a dynamic which has allowed a very destructive force to gain in power. That's the big picture. The debt ceiling, I like as a topic because it's a way into showing what it is that's taken over conservative America, and it's very ugly. I mean, it's right there on the surface how ugly it is. And also the contribution of liberal America and the Democrats to allowing such an ugly thing to get such a lot of power over so much of America that our democracy has handed them power to be destructive in almost every way you can imagine, the debt ceiling being just one of them. And
let me stop you right there, because in your article, you state something very important, and I'm glad that we're going through this. You state that one of the reasons you entered that race that in the introduction I mentioned in the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia was because you thought the Democrats had failed to make the appropriate case against Republicans and why, in effect, the policies they support were the ones that we should be looking forward to.
Yeah, I wrote an op-ed in 2009, still Obama's first year in office, an open letter to Obama saying, we elected you to fight these battles, not to forfeit them. So very early on, I thought he was going. I just loved the man. I was just never so excited, by a historical event. That scene on election night in Grant Park in Chicago, Barack Obama, who had been thronged by 100,000 people in Berlin, who were so happy to have America back as out of the hands of the people like Karl Rove and Dick Cheney and W. The whole world was excited, and I was excited. And by the end of 2009, I could see that the Democrats had elected a wonderful man who didn't have a clue what he was up against or how to deal with it. So disappointing, so bewildering. I mean, any 11-year-old boy on the playground would know not to deal with what the Republicans were sending his way in such an appeasing fashion. So the Democrats have had a problem, and I say, Obama epitomized it, but we can go back to the rise of Rush Limbaugh and Newt Gingrich. The Democrats have failed to see what they're up against and failed to confront it appropriately. So in 2011, the Republicans pulled this same extortion stunt. And I was a candidate for Congress at that time. So I had taken that, as you said, I had done that because I decided I can't wait for the Democrats to say what I want to have said. So let me grab this platform. The guy had run unopposed in 2010. Grab this platform, and then I can say to the part of the world I'll have access to, Virginia's 6th district, from Lynchburg to Roanoke and up to just short of Winchester. I can talk to them about the ways that I wanted the Democrats to be doing. And so what I did.
Wait 1 minute, because here I want to give you some kudos right there, because you claim that you did that for your District 6 in Virginia. I remember well when you got up and gave that speech, and that speech on Daily Kos and other places, it was like, where have Democrats been, ones who were willing to take the bull by both horns, which is what you did in that one speech, and you continue to do as you were campaigning throughout Virginia.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that back in. The whole message really is. You and I have talked about my concept of evil, and I think I can make it stick, but now's not the time. But it is about evil. One of the remarkable things about today's Republican Party is it meets my definition of evil, a coherent force that consistently works to make the human world worse. The debt ceiling obviously makes the human world worse, even if the threat isn't carried out, and certainly if the threat is carried out. But, back in 2011, Obama and his crowd gave rewards to the Republicans in exchange for their extortion. So I used what pulpit I had, not a bully pulpit, but a tiny pulpit, one congressional district. I got up there and said, really what the Republicans are saying is they're holding a gun to America's head, the gun being the consequences if we default on it. Everybody agrees that catastrophe. Holding a gun to America's head and saying, if you don't give me what I'm demanding, I'll blow America's head off. That really is essentially what they were saying and what they're saying today. And you got to put it in that language to get to the people to recognize, look at what you're dealing with here. What would we think of a guy who held a gun to a kid's head and said something like that? I'll blow the kid's head off if you don't meet my demands. In addition to the evil, the palpable evil of being willing to inflict the degree of of disruption and unemployment and suffering, not just in the United States, but they say in the whole world.
It would be the whole world, yes.
To do that, to be willing to do that, that's evil. But then to do that in order to get what you cannot legitimately achieve, it is not legitimate to coerce the other players on the stage into doing everything your way. If you believe in democracy, you get the right to get your way by persuading the people to give you the power to do it. That's the only legitimate way to do it. Extortion is not legitimate. So both in their means and in their goals, they have shown themselves to be evils. They are battering away at democracy, which says you don't get the Democrats to give you what you want by threatening to hurt the nation. You got to work out a deal with them, or you got to let them do what they can do, whatever. That's playing by the rules. And breaking the rules is setting us on a path that we have seen throughout history. I mean, if power isn't going to be given from the people are going to be victimized by the power. So
now, interesting.
It's a matter of seeing evil and denouncing it. And the Democrats, at least, are not yielding this time. And that is a big step forward. I don't think that the Democrats are going to cave. Some people on daily costs do. I don't think so. I think that they are. I think that Biden's going to save the day at the end. But in the meanwhile, they should be helping the American people understand what it is. And you got to be able to denounce things in the proper tone and the proper terms so that people can see this evil that's right out there in front of us and that most people still don't really see.
You know, I think they're going to try to hold firm, as you said, but I have a problem with them playing around the game right now. I think it is as Robert Reich has printed several days ago. It is time for President Biden to simply say, going forward, there will be no debt limit debate because of the 14th Amendment. We are responsible for our debts, period. Take it to the Supreme Court if you'd like. If the Supreme Court rules against you, again, that would be the quagmire that we're in. But I would dare the Supreme Court to do so.
I agree with you entirely about that. In fact, that was my position, and it's been my position still. But the thing is, the political job that needs to be done, in a sense, job number one, I think, is to get a substantial majority of the American people to see the Republican Party for what it is.
I agree.
So yeah, I actually have been predicting. I think that but I think that that it is smart for Biden not to say, this is what I'm going to do, or just to do it. He just made a move, by the way. He said, "No, I'm not yet there." Or I'm not there yet.
I saw the interview. Yeah.
His interview. Yeah. So that's a step away from where he used to be. So I think it's smart to they can know in their head that we're not going to go over the cliff. They know that. He's going to do it. That's what I believe. I don't have any inside information. But in the meanwhile, this whole drama should be allowed to unfold in whatever way will best educate the American people. If Biden just steps forward and says, I'm going to unilaterally, overturn this debt ceiling law, make some argument about the Constitution, how many people are going to understand when the Republicans say, oh, this is a dictator or a tyrant, he's got no right to do this and all that kind of garbage we would hear and we will hear? You got to prepare the way for people to understand he's rescuing the country. He's not betraying it. This is what is required. And I was interested to see that in today's New York Times, Lawrence Tribe, who in 2011 argued against the 14th Amendment route, now he says he's changed his mind, that what's important here is not how you interpret some words in the 14th Amendment. What's important here is saving the country.
Absolutely so. There's no doubt about it. But here's the issue now with respect to Democrats, Biden, etc. I think there's such a poor job being done. I want you to humor me for a few things here real quickly. Here in Texas, we're going through hell. We have they're trying to take over this. The largest county in Texas is Harris County.
Yeah, I know about that. It's disgraceful.
But what gets me more so than what the Republicans are doing is the lack of fight that I see in our legislature from our we are so big that we have 3 senators who cross boundaries Harris County, which means they should be over here mobilizing the citizenry in that particular district. We don't hear from them. They're moot. So I called up our several of our legislators. I called them and spoke to them personally. And one of the statements that I got is, over here in our legislature, it's like being on a plantation with those who have control and those who don't. To which I told the legislator, so why aren't you activating the base? Why aren't you flying back to Houston and getting a posse together and let them know that even if they win the vote, the masses of people that are against it. So I take homage to what you had to say about jumping into that election in, I think it was 2011, I believe.
2011. 2012 was the actual election.
The date, but I
ran for 2 years.
2011, yeah. Right. To kind of put some fire under the Democrats' belly, because as it stands right now, not many of the politicians proper are screaming. We have the activists like yourself and what we're doing here that are trying to raise the awareness of the American people. But I don't see that fire from the elected officials.
Well, the Democrats have been making progress in these directions. I used to be feeding ideas into the Democratic. I have somebody who likes to get my ideas, and I won't say any name, but if I did,
we don't say names here. We respect their privacy.
Yeah, people would recognize it and say, yeah, that's a good voice. And but I used to send them a lot of stuff because the Democrats were falling so far short of speaking of. But when you got let's get together in a friendly way guy like Joe Biden standing up there and warning the electorate before the 2022 election that the MAGA Republicans represent a threat to American democracy. That was everybody says it did have a positive effect. It awakened a certain amount, but that's a big move. Obama, Biden, they're people who aren't big on perceiving evil and denouncing it.
They're too damn civil, yeah.
I think that Obama came into office, he wanted to be a transformational president. Like we had FDR then, and we're going to have Obama now, and he didn't even come close to that, and the reason is he didn't understand that he had to defeat something that was continually treating him as an enemy. We know that the Republicans, even before he took office, they were determined to make him look as bad as possible, to give him no successes. His way of dealing with that, you got to be able to see. And liberal America as an expression of liberal culture. And liberal culture has certain things in its worldview which interfere with seeing certain kinds of reality. And that one of those realities is evil. You talk to liberal audiences about evil or even just about morality, and you hear things which indicate they don't really think this is real stuff entirely.
I completely agree with you. Now, I wonder sometimes what's the genesis of this. And when I get into my deeper thoughts, I wonder how much of it is that and I know you don't particularly like this particular phraseology, but the neoliberal sect of the party is some of the most, is likely the most damaging part, because while they share certain policies with, let's say, progressives, that they would want better social services for our kinfolks. They would want to give a more humane treatment to the underdogs, to those without.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
They just won't they just won't confront that the capitalist nature portion of the party, and not only our party but the Republican Party. They don't have any use for that.
So I think you're proposing that what matters is where people are in the progressive to liberal. Let me suggest that the question that differentiates things is how much capacity for moral outrage do people have? So some people will look at something and they don't approve of it, but there's a difference between not approving or not agreeing, and some things are just so downright unacceptable. And it may correlate with progressives versus liberals. I mean, how ready are you to come?
Professor, or doctor, let me interrupt you for a second, because I don't want to. I want to give a concrete example and then ask you to kind of expand on, make the point. During the and this is important, during the healthcare debate, we finally decided that, okay, we were going to accept a public option to the care system, because we understood the pain that the private sector would have inflicted, even with Obamacare, for the prices of insurance, et cetera. So we wanted a backstop, which would have been the public option that allowed Americans to see what insurance without a profit base looks like. And it was, I think, 3 or 4 Democrats who stopped that from occurring. And again, that, we can't put any of the blame on that particular evil on Republicans, because we know that that's their evil. We know that that's what they don't care about folks' health care. We know that because they prove it here in Texas and elsewhere. But Democrats had the option. 4 of them decided to, or 4 or more, a few more, decided to can that option that gave people that kind of choice. That wasn't a a Republican evil. I consider that to have been a Democratic evil at one end of the spectrum.
Yeah, the value of talking about evil in this context is that the Republican Party has become something extraordinary. I mean, we can look at politics at any time in any country, and you can see aspects of corruption, and you can see aspects of greed, and you can say, well, that's a manifestation of evil. That'd be fine with me. But what's extraordinary about these times is that the Republican Party has become something which meets my criterion for evil, which wasn't true even in Reagan's days. It certainly wasn't true in Eisenhower's days. It wasn't true of of Herbert Hoover. Both parties have been had their dimensions of evil forever. But what's extraordinary about today's Republican Party, emerging, say, from the I'd say it was a normal party up through the first Bush presidency. And then a force which you can see manifesting in Rush Limbaugh and his 20 million ditto heads, and in Newt Gingrich and his sociopathic use of Nazi propaganda techniques. You can see something emerging until it eventually gets to Donald Trump, completely unthinkable, completely broken Man, this is an extraordinary thing. I follow politics in a bunch of countries, and not like I'm an expert in comparative politics for the last 300 years, but I know stuff. And I don't know of any political party except for the Nazi Party in Germany that you could point to as being so much a coherent force that consistently works to make the human world worse, which is my definition of evil. That's what's extraordinary about this moment. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is that we have a moment in which the Democrats can do what they failed to do, which is to make sure that the majority of the American people see the Republican Party for what it is and take power away from it. That is the job for the country.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly there. Now, I watched Sunday mornings is a morning where my entire morning's taken up because I watch all the major news programs and the people that they have on.
Oh, wow.
And there is not one Democrat who cohesively or coherently made that argument that you've made. Right now, the solution to the debt ceilings on the Republican side is to pass a law that freezes us at the 2022 spending levels. I just want to point out what that meant. In my show at KPFT on Friday, I explained what freezing really means from a mathematical standpoint. Freezing really means a cut in people's Social Security, a cut because there are more going on. And
these are the demands the blackmailers, the hostage takers are taking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying now, you come here and you make a case. I made a case on Friday where I numerically showed that reality, that it's really pain that they're inflicting. But I heard not one Democrat on these major news channels express it in a manner that the average Americans, the bread and butter Americans, could actually see the evil, as you've indicated, as we spoke about it before.
Well, my recommendation basically is to get the American people to see this crisis in those terms I mentioned earlier, which I used in my campaign and which I have now sent to my contact out there in the Congress, which is to say that the Republicans are snarling if you don't, while they hold a gun to the nation's head, if you don't meet our demands, we'll blow America's head off. And basically to do whatever is necessary for people to see the ugliness of it. Now, I'm not saying not to say some of the important things like, well, this isn't about spending, which is, I mean, it's important that people understand. And it doesn't seem like people are very good at paying enough attention to understand. This is not about limiting spending. It's about paying bills for money already spent. So that's important. But the crucial thing is to get people in the gut, to see the ugliness, the holding a gun to the country's head, to experience it in a way which registers. You don't have to use the word evil, but just the picture of a guy. You say they say they love America. Now, if a man was holding a gun to a child's head, threatening to blow it off, do you think that you would think that he loved that child?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So they are the opposite of patriots. Show them for what they are in whatever way will make the greatest impact on helping Americans see this thing is ugly and destructive and needs to be swept out of power.
From your ears or from your mouth to America's ears. That's what I have to say. From your mouth to America's ears. I think it is time for us to really get the true narrative straight. Unfortunately, I think it's going to have to come from people like yourself and other activists out there, because I think I've lost almost all faith that Democrats have some form of a narrative that have the will, I shouldn't say some form, that Democrats have the will to engage as you have engaged before, as most of us activists know we need to engage. So Dr. Schmookler, let me just ask you to give me a closer. Tell me what you want seen done and what you intend to do.
Well, as I have studied what's happened to liberal America during my lifetime, that leads to the blindnesses that we've seen and the weaknesses and the absence of the intensity of moral and spiritual passion that we see. We have such decent people able to talk about these things in a way which indicates a certain understanding of what's right and what's wrong, but not the deep passion about it. It's like it doesn't register at the level that moves people. My hero in terms of the confrontation with fascism is not a liberal politician. It's Winston Churchill. When I was running for Congress, there are three leaders that I read like 10 biographies of each one. Lincoln and FDR were two of them. But in some ways, the one I remain most connected with is Winston Churchill. And I find thrilling, first of all, that he understood evil as it was rising in the world in front of everybody. But his political party just consigned him to the wilderness because they refused to see what Hitler represented. So he was the voice in the wilderness, and that his courage at that. But then when he became the wartime leader and leading a British people that had failed in the 30s to confront this thing, to rise to heroic levels, to fight and defeat the fascism that almost overtook the whole British Isles back in 1940. But you look at Churchill's speeches and the ways he spoke, never have so many owed so much to so few. The heroic image of these people who had defended the island from the Nazi air attack. And I have nothing to offer you but blood, sweat, toil, and tears. And his words about the evil that this represented and how we will fight them on the beaches. This was the kind of voice that I wanted to hear in America as we confronted essentially the same fascistic spirit in a domestic scene, not with fighter planes and such, but with words that rouse the people, like Churchill roused his people to be brave in the face of a terrible, dark and dangerous threat, with bombs falling on London by the thousands. That's what we've needed, and that's what I hope that we can hear from the Democrats in an appropriate form at this moment, when the Republicans are showing the whole country what ugly things they are, using evil means to achieve evil goals that is an evil to achieve by those coercive means. Show how ugly it is so the American people wake up, as many as possible, and so that the Republicans will never again, in this form, until they become a decent party again, never again control a House of Congress or the White House.
Dr. Andy Schmookler, thank you so kindly for this edition on the current state of the Republican Party. I hope you like that, guys. Anyhow, thank you so kindly. Robert P. Davenport, too, says, help save democracy. Don't vote for any candidate for a party coddling those proven of sexual assault. They have shown what they stand for. Time for us to stand up. Couldn't agree with you more. And not to be outdone, we had Peggy Lopez, who gave us a great super chat as well. But she had to up Robert by a penny. Oh, you guys are wonderful. Thank you guys so kindly for your support. All right, continuing with we got to get out of here. But beforehand, I want to read stuff real quick. Michael Rone, looks like I'm going to be heading out quite earlier. Well, I gave you a salute, sir. Let's see what else we got. Woohoo! Robert Davenport, you the man. Carl Cox is better than sounding conservative. Let's see what else we have here. Davenport is having a good flow with Peggy Lopez there. Lee Grant says, I'm not sure about evil, but I bet many Satanists support progressives. I doubt that. Bridge MCP says, Eric, they do. It's huge. Carl Cox says, Eric Hayes and Lee Grant are the examples of... I won't go there. Robert Davenport says, no one would ever be jealous of those who lie to the American people unless they are wanting to be such an odious liar themselves. That I got to agree with, and I need to put something on the screen here for Bridge MCP. There you go. Trolling or joking? Yes. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Bridge MCP. Peggy Lopez says, Bridge, I am only able to get a few times a week, so I miss a lot of what is going on with my peeps. We all give what we can, and when we can, I have 2-day balloon gig this weekend. You go beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Eric Hayes says, Egberto Social Security was given a raise 2022, right? So if spending is at the level it would be wrong, cut spending in other places like military. Oh, wow. I'm glad that you actually saw that. Noticed that, Eric. I'm glad you noticed that, sir. Your accountant is coming in. Bridge MCP says, Peggy Lopez, I hear ya. Being on SSD, I have to be careful when and what I give. New balloons. Love it. Workplace, Bridge. Davenport says, almost as much as we pity those naive enough to swallow and echo their vile will. Guys, I gotta go. Let's see. I'll read all of them. I promise you, when I'm done here, I'll read all of them. Okay. Look, thank you guys for being here. You all, you guys really make my day. Because as long as we feel like we are moving the message forward, and let me tell you, why I read your messages is your message is equivalent to the messages of, or your thoughts are equivalent to the thoughts of thousands of other Americans. So your one thought, that's what it needs to be out there for others to see. And I think having an interactive program where people, those that are here, can speak. For the masses that are going to listen to this on podcasts, your voices are heard and people get confirmed in what they believe, in who they are, and understanding that they're not alone. Thank you so kindly for being here. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.